Ronaldo, of Ronaldo's Musicals fame.
As district rights are trampled by the world's Scythian government, where will you turn? Turn to the people themselves. Seacoast Row Public Radio.
Welcome back to Seacoast Row Public Radio. Obscura Biotech has big plans for Scythe. They've got really big ambitions and the funding to make it happen. I've talked about their Fabricating Reality initiative before, and it has gotten no less scary in the past, 10 years since they started leaning into it heavily. At least 8 since I started mentioning it, trying to warn you all. You're telling me that no one else finds it weird that a world government formed right after a big nuclear meltdown. Nuclear meltdown that many eyewitnesses that have mysteriously died seem to think was an explosion that was intentionally set off. I guess it's just me, Kevin Murphy, Maverick Cooper, and a few dozen dead eyewitnesses that think something fishy's going on. What happened on Durry Django? I don't know. Anyway, before there was Obscura Biotech, there was a production company called Obscura Programming, and of course, the more sinister Obscura Family Programming. Surprisingly, I was able to secure an interview with their director of broadcasting, Alistair Bradley Collins. I am uploading the uncensored interview I conducted with Alistair to my status post feed. Download and save this, alright? Because they're gonna scrub it. They didn't even want these to air. They actually came to my house and confiscated all the recordings. But you know me, I always have backups. I always have other things recording. They can't outwit Seacoast Row Public Radio's best, alright? Anyway, here's the interview. Enjoy. Good evening, Alistair.
Hello there, brother. Thank you for having me. It's so interesting to be on such a low-budget program as this one. To go from a multi-trillion credit infrastructure that employs thousands of people to a soundstage with 2 men in their dusty old recording equipment. But no, I love it. I really love it. It's quaint. I bet we pay our janitor more in a year than you have made hosting this show in the last 10, no?
Thanks. So let's get right into this. The Obscura slogan has long been Fabricating Reality. But does that same slogan apply to Obscura Programming? And if so, doesn't Fabricating Reality come across a bit dystopian?
Well, what is a TV network? Is it just a team putting together a block of programming to feed the imaginations of the board? For what is boredom but intellectual starvation? This is why we make sure all of our viewers are getting highly nutritious brain food for their programming to feed this intellectual starvation.
What do you mean by highly nutritious? You care to elaborate for me?
In television broadcasting, what are we doing? Are we just the magicians behind the scenes, flipping all of them switches and adjusting the programming? Is that it? Entertainment is just a means to steer the heart, to guide the public to making the just and moral choice. We tell them what the right choice is, and more often than not, they will make this choice. We feel it is our moral obligation to keep these unwashed masses satiated, entertained, and educated, as educated as they will allow. In the end, complacency is a much safer mindset for the majority to adopt than to constantly question everything around them. But there is a lot of power with such a big audience, no doubt about it. At any given time, billions will be tuned into one of our channels, and millions more will be streaming our content on status post. So, we elect to keep these millions complacent, distracted from the potential violence or strife they would no doubt cause, let's be honest here. Essentially, one of our primary goals is social control. I'd say it might even eclipse our desire for profit. It's social engineering, really, but a completely benevolent kind of social engineering. So, I ask you one more time. In television broadcasting, what are we doing, essentially? Again, are we mere magicians flipping switches, pressing play on that goofy commercial? Or are we actually managing the most successful social engineering operation of all time?
Seems Obscura's slogan is pretty accurate. In what ways does your programming go about this reality fabrication?
Well, I could think of quite a number of examples. Let's see. Ideally, our programs will contextualize history. If people begin questioning the reality we present, that could lead to ignorance, to violence. Imagine for 1 second how smart everyone would be if there was only one truth. And that is our goal, you see, to find the universal truth, to broadcast it, and to educate the uneducated into adapting this truth as their own. So if you want to write that down, you can mark it down as strengthening societal morals or something. Huh? No, but we've used this in many different facets. For example, we've used it to steer medicine. Say there is a new sickness. We can inform both the sick and the physicians on which treatments and vaccinations to receive or direct investments towards, respectively. Say there is a new cultural behavior we find disruptive. We can dehumanize the traits associated with that group or particular mindset. In effect, this alienates anyone who does not toe the line, so to speak. It forces people to smarten up, to think before they speak, to act more civilized. Civilized by our standards, of course, by the standards on which we assign to society. Not these barbaric traditions people desperately try to cling to. We've also used it to fortify elections, to normalize behavior, to shift cultural norms. There are people all over the world who do not comply with our core values, that stand against us on every single issue. We simply cannot allow them any media coverage nor any support. We do everything we can to make it an uphill battle for these people who won't fall in line. An uphill battle filled with landmines on their way up. But some of these people you will not believe, politicians especially, they are such idiots. It makes our job quite easy. They put their foot in their own mouth without even our help.
Just to be clear, idiotic politicians make what job really easy? And for the record, I think this is the first thing we've agreed on. Politicians definitely need to be reined in.
When a politician does not choose their words carefully, we simply don't have to edit much. Back when I was an intern at Sabit Broadcasting, we would really have to manipulate those speeches in interviews. Lots of cutting and tweaking, But some of the latest politicians, all you need to do is remove the next sentence. They speak like a comedian. They say the most outlandish things, and then they offer context after the fact. So, we remove the context, and all that is left is their insane rambling. Now, this may be an entertaining way of getting a point across in stand-up comedy, but it is not a smart one in politics, you see. All we have to do is remove one sentence, and the idiot does all the work for us, all the heavy lifting. We don't even need to use deepfakes. The programming, I should say. The programming writes itself. Of course, since the white Scythian government has been in place, there has been a total shift of this responsibility. Every politician is so rigorously vetted now before even being allowed to run. So we no longer have any need to steer the public's vote. However you vote, You are voting loyalty to the white Scythian state. That's it. Really, there are only a few key issues that the political parties really disagree on. And they are minor and important ones, trivial, completely inconsequential. And this is how it should be. Voting was always a dangerous concept. Why would we let the masses decide the fate of the country, the nation, the government, the very word itself? Really, the masses, they are asking the wrong questions, or too many questions, without trying to find the answers themselves. They want to be led, they want to be spoon-fed, to be warm and comfy and blissfully ignorant to the mechanizations that keep the very society they damn and staying running. That is why we tell them how they should vote, how to communicate, medicate, worship, eat, sleep, and so forth. We want to control every aspect of reality because we know we can make it better. And they love it. They love us for it, thus fabricating reality.
But if the reality is fabricated by you, aren't the people technically smart for asking questions? Essentially, they've caught on. And a magician doesn't murder people who figure out his tricks, does he?
We are not trying to punish anyone. That is not our job. Our job is to eradicate the mindsets that leads to punishments in the first place. And it has become 1,000 times more effective since we began to work lockstep with social media sites like Status Post to sniff out any dissent from the official story.
What do you make of social media and streaming networks? Does this new media have the potential to replace existing legacy media? And if so, are you worried about the future of obscura programming?
No doubt social media is the future of entertainment and media consumption. But if you want more on this, you must chat with someone more focused on the topic. I'll get you one of the people from Behavior Tech Wing for your next interview if you'd like. But in the meantime, is there anything else for me in regards to television programming? I have 1 or 2 minutes before I must catch my plane.
Bearing in mind how you've fabricated reality for adults with obscura programming, what does your family programming entail?
What a great question. Family programming is more about education than fabrication. Yeah. While we do run many syndicated shows, we also acquire properties, such as the Farmyard Festivities reboot, Happy Humble Hijinks. We let the Vanava twins have creative control for a few seasons, but later we exerted our authority and we made sure they started putting in the messages for the children. Maybe the lesson of the week would make them more susceptible to a certain political ideology down the line. Essentially train the kids to hold certain opinions we deem acceptable or behave a certain way so that we could potentially monetize their social media use. Does that make sense? But after Hijinks ended, we applied the same techniques to all of our other shows like Henin Chimpi, the Julio and Dimitri Super Show, Inquisitive Jorge, Joko's Antiquated Existence, and many more. But what truly makes it effective are the kids themselves. Say, if a child is on the playground and hasn't seen the latest episode of Heidi of Sedites, the rest of the children will bully the child into compliance, into internalizing the message of the show. We try to subliminally influence the kids to spread the morals they learn from the shows you see. One could call it a kind of virus, a thought virus, only in this case the virus is good. It's sort of like pasteurizing the zeitgeist, if you will, preemptively doing it. Before it comes of age, you must deal with the garden, you see. But I really must go. It has been a pleasure talking to an amateur again. It has been so long. It's as if I have gone through a time machine being on this trap program. You never know. Maybe someday you will get to be an intern at a proper network like Obscure Programming or maybe even Sabit Broadcasting Network. Can you imagine being able to get coffee for an actual professional? and making a decent wage at that. Anyway, my friend, you take care.